All right, let's do it. A sequel is a very scary thing to do. Sometimes it may come in the form of a past adventure. Other times it can be a direct follow-up of whatever story the creators are trying to tell. But one thing remains a fact. You can't have a sequel without a great beginning. When you make a great game that many fans love and adore, you begin to get questions like, when's the next one coming out? How many things are going to be different? Will it be as good as the first? Most of the time, sequels don't really give people the excitement that they felt from the original. There could be many reasons, like changing a character design, having a bad story, or my least favorite, changing the gameplay. Yes, there are many sequels that don't work, but when you think about some of the great game sequels, what do they all have in common? They all stay true to the original game. In my opinion, sequels are meant to add more depth into something that already works without having to do a complete overhaul. You know why Mario works? Because it's fun as jumping around as a short Italian plumber in blue overalls collecting coins and stars. Pokemon literally plays the same exact way in almost every game, and they have one of the best video game followings ever. The point I'm trying to make here is that you don't have to create a brand new game to keep your fans happy and coming back. Just add some new paint, give us some decals, slap some new tires on that old thing, and you got yourselves a brand new game.
Damn right.
System check. Sticks check. Game check. SB! And we're back. What up, everybody? SBSteve here, and I can't tell you how many times that a sequel's come out for a game that I love just to ruin the experience. Crash 2 is not that game. Now, there's one thing that I don't like when it comes to sequels, and that's change. Unless your first game really sucked and you have to change it for the sequel, don't do it. The second Crash game made very minimal changes to the actual game, but they were enough. Being a commercial success, it was only a matter of time before we got our hands on the second Crash game. And the second one promised to keep up the hype that the first one introduced us to. And once it was released, it outsold its predecessor and became one of the greatest selling PlayStation games of all time. But why? 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 Well, because Crash works. I haven't played this game in God knows how long, but with the remaster, I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy it like I did back in the day. So, let's play Crash 2. So the last time you guys were here, Crash had just defeated his arch rival, Dr. Neo Cortex, sending him flying down from the sky. Cortex falls all the way from the sky into the underground of Cortex Island. Here is where he has discovered the amazing power of crystals. According to Cortex, these crystals have the power to align planets, or so he says. After spending who knows how long building an entire space station, Cortex kidnaps Crash, begging him to collect the remaining crystals so he can save the world and align the planets again. So you're telling me the man that kidnapped me in the original game, took my woman, made me go through hell and back just to get her, wants me to help him? Sure. So with that, Crash sets off to collect the remaining crystals and help his old enemy save the world. Or so we thought. Quickly after getting a gem, Crash is greeted by Cortex's suspicious-looking assistant, Embryo. Turns out they had a little falling out, and Cortex got himself a new assistant, Jin. And holy, this guy is deformed. Look at his face. He has a freaking rocket sticking out of him. I'm starting to think Cortex has some self-esteem issues because this man does not want regular-looking assistants. So when you talk to Brio or stare at him in Crash's case, he reveals to you that Cortex is in fact not going to align the planets, but instead he will get his revenge if you get all the crystals for him. Brio tells you to go out and get all the gems instead of the crystals so he can stop Cortex and get his revenge instead. And we also have Coco finally making her first appearance ever, and I still don't know where she comes from, but that's fine. She also tells Crash not to trust Cortex, and I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but what is one thing Crash does not have that everyone seems to be forgetting? Sense. I really don't get why everyone has so much faith in this guy. He doesn't talk and takes none of this serious, so why? With a new goal in mind, Crash sets out to do what he does best. I like how the story progresses in this game other than the original. Whenever you get past certain bosses or parts in the game, you get a little update on what each person is doing, and it gives the story more life.
In the first Crash game, you don't get any of this until the very end, and it's kinda lackluster. Here, you get a certain amount of crystals, gems, or beater balls, and you'll get Cortex calling in to tell you to hurry it up. It gives the characters more life, and makes you want to know a little bit more about them. Why does Cortex have an N on his forehead? Why does Brio have screws in his head? Why is Coco here? Why? Even though the story is a little simple, I enjoy it more than the first game. I feel like after the first game, there's some real beef that just wasn't there before. Sure, he kidnapped you, transformed you, stole your girlfriend, and tried to kill you, but now you feel the tension. Every time Cortex calls in, you hear the sarcasm in his voice and Crash's blank face just showing you that he gets none of this. I think he genuinely just goes out, smashes things for fun, and he could care less about everything that's going on around him. If he actually cared, he would have stopped the first time Coco tried to call in, but no, he's just spinning and sliding, trying to get to the end of the road, and that's fine. But when doesn't go their way, don't blame Crash. After you make your way around different areas and get to the very end, Cortex reveals that he is in fact not going to align the planets, but instead he will destroy Crash. After the most anticlimactic final fight, Cortex tells you that this is not the last time you'll be seeing him. And then we get a shot of Crash on the beach and we see that the Cortex Vortex is still there. So what was the point of all this? This has got to be one of the worst endings ever. Imagine if you were like me. You get home, turn on your system, and you have a certain amount of hours to beat this game. You have no memory card, so you have to kill this game in one go. You beat it, you're excited to see the ending, and then you get a minute of nothing. Literally nothing happens. Thankfully, if you decide to get all the gems, you get an actual ending. Once all gems have been collected, Brio contacts you one last time as he has everything he needs to destroy the Cortex Vortex. And with one blast, the ship is toast. Kinda makes you wonder, why would Cortex ever get rid of this guy? He actually got something done. Note to self, don't make ugly scientists jealous. So the second game plays pretty much like the first. You get to spin, jump, and that's pretty much it. Except it's not. They added one thing that instantly just made this game better and worse. They gave Crash his slide. This makes the game go so much faster because now you can do slide jumps and slide spins. Knowing that you can cover so much ground with these moves makes you want to take risks, and me being speedrunner Steve, I took them all. I can't help it, so I slide and jump everywhere I go to get through everything as fast as possible because it's so freaking fun. The only bad part about it all is how much I see the game over screen. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, and I recommend you do, you'll begin to understand that I am sort of a reckless player. I like to go in guns blazing and John Wick everyone I see, and this gets me killed a ton. Thankfully, the game is fun enough where the deaths don't really bother me that much. It's a trial and error kind of thing with a heavy emphasis on error. I could be more of a patient person and just wait for a safe time to cross some of these obstacles, but now, that's not very fun for me. If any of you have extra time after the video, do me a favor and check out a speedrun of this game and watch just how crazy you can get with just these 2 extra moves. They break the game like you wouldn't even believe, and it kind of makes me think that I can do this. I can make these levels look like nothing. I am Speedrunner Steve. Let's put a rain check on that. That is not the only thing they added into the game. You can also slam yourself into the ground now, and this is kind of useless for me. You really only needed to break these strong boxes, and other than that, it's pretty useless. I guess you can kind of argue that you needed to get some boxes that are up pretty high. Nope. One thing that I am glad that they got rid of is having to complete a whole level without dying. There are still levels where you can't die if you want to get a gem, but this time you only have to make it to one of these platforms, and if you make it to the end of the path, you'll get a gem. They're still the colored gems though, but this time the requirements are a little bit different to get them and a whole lot easier than not dying once in a whole level. The most creative thing they added into this game, and sometimes annoying, are the secret exits. These things are sometimes easy to spot out, but other times I just really don't want to risk that last life for that exit, damn it. Looking for these was pretty enjoyable though, and every time I did, I felt like a young Indiana Jones, Sherlock Holmes, Detective Pikachu. There are a few things that don't really do it for me though. I really like the Donkey Kong style hub world from the first game, and this closed circle is kind of depressing. It was so wide open before, and you could see the whole Cortex Island and just how beautiful it was. And this is just sad. The levels are still like the first game, being a straight shot to the end with a few new elements in some. You can clear most of the game with minimal backtracking, and this is super necessary, cause like the first game, the camera is just atrocious. I'm not going crazy over the level design either here, because they kinda played it safe for me. If you ask me, most of the levels reminded me of the original game by how they were designed and structured, so backtrack with caution. At least the boxes are way easier to get this time around, so when you do have to backtrack, it's not that bad. If you ask me, this game is kind of easier than the first one, up until you get to the 4th floor. I don't know if anyone else experienced this, but these levels are way harder than the others. This is where most of my deaths happen, and I couldn't even get past 10 lives here like a scrub. Levels with bees especially, holy...
It's me, Mario!
Wait, wrong game. Hold up. I can fix this.
Get over here!
Nope.
Hello, hey, listen.
Damn it.
Objection!
You know what? Forget it. Just forget it.
Whoa!
Oh, now, whatever. If you play it casually and finish level once, you can just go back and not have to backtrack at all. But me being me, I like to handle my business in one go. My mom got the groceries outside. I am the Hercules of produce, and I don't do 2 trips. This time around, the bosses weren't that bad. Scratch that. Tiny was not a bad boss. I actually enjoyed his fight and felt a bit accomplished afterwards. But everyone else? I honestly don't think it can get any worse than these bosses. I'm pretty sure all of their effort went into designing the levels instead of actually making these bosses fun. So, seeing how bad these bosses are, I'm going to be going over what I dislike about each one of their fights. Ripperoo has seen better days, ladies and gentlemen. In the first Crash game, you have to jump on a TNT crate at the right time to catch Ripperoo and hopefully blow him up. In this game, you wait in a corner until he blows himself up, and then you go and hit him. It takes no skill. The Komodo brothers, Joe and Mo, have to be the weakest pair of brothers in video game history. Now, we've seen many great brothers throughout the video game history, such as the Mario Bros, Goken and Akuma from Street Fighter, and the unfortunate Carmine brothers from Gears of War. Hell, even Bub and Bob are better than these 2 pathetic excuses for brothers. So the fight with these 2 fraudulent excuses for brothers goes like this. Joe spins for a couple of seconds and then stops. When you hit Joe, he goes spinning into Mo, and Mo slowly starts throwing swords at you. Rinse and repeat. It takes no skill. The third fight is Tiny, and I like this fight, so I won't be saying anything bad about it. The next fight is against Engine, and for this fight, they gave Crash a new move where he throws Wumpa Fruit at Engine, and this is just a bad fight. The hardest thing in this fight is not catching a cramp from pressing the attack button so much. And I guess they tried to mimic the Brio fight from the first game by giving Engine more health than the other bosses, but Brio's fight wasn't as annoying to play. So, all you have to do is attack him when his weapons are exposed while avoiding his slow attacks. It takes no skill! Before I move on to the last boss, I want to talk about these 2 certain levels. These levels are Rocket and Packet. These 2 levels aren't really that bad, they just have a stupid flight mechanic that controls terribly. It took me a little bit to get the complete hang of the flight, and even then, I did not enjoy this. So, why would I talk about these levels? Because you have to fight the final boss, Cortex, on a damn jetpack. I really dislike the jetpack, but that isn't even the worst part about this. When I fought Cortex for the first time, I tried my very best to avoid everything on the screen. He was evasive, but I was quick, and I was avoiding everything as best as I could with these stupid controls, but then I got smacked by a rock right in the face. At this point, I've told everyone how easy it is for Crash to die, so what do you think happens next? Huh? You don't die! Turns out, the only way to lose to Cortex is to let him escape, but I'd have to unplug my controller and put myself in a coma to do all that. This fight is the worst fight in the game, and it's a shame because it's the boss. Cortex in the first game was easy, but this is elementary. The only thing that adds a shred of difficulty are the jetpack's controls. And for a final boss, this should have and could have been a way better fight. So, for the final time, it takes no skill! After you beat Cortex, you are awarded with a new skill, Speed Shoes. This allows you to sprint with Crash, and even though I only used it to get the last gem, this is... No, you don't whoa me right now, alright? I'm gonna curse. This is fucking fun. Now, I'm pretty sure they meant for these to be used for the time trials, and as much as Speedrunner Steve loves these, I will never, ever complete the time trials. That's until I play the CTR remake.
Cortex Strikes Back. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I would say so. I really enjoyed the new slide mechanic, the changes that they made to the colored gems, and a bunch of other things. I really liked how the game stayed true to the formula and didn't make any drastic changes, but there were a few things that kind of irked me. I didn't really enjoy any of the jetpack levels or B levels for obvious reasons, and the bosses were a pretty big disappointment if you ask me. Now, do I enjoy this game more than the original? It's kind of hard to tell right now. I'm pretty sure after I play the third game, Crash Bandicoot Warped, I'll have an answer for you. After that, I'm going to be covering Crash Team Racing because that game is amazing and I really enjoy Crash kart games, even Tag Team Racing. And after that, we shouldn't see Crash for a little while, and I guess I'll start something new and fresh. Any recommendations? Comment them down below and let me know. So, ladies and gentle people, if you took the time out of your day to come watch me, I appreciate that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I always forget to say this, but hit the bell too, because then that notifies you whenever I post videos, and I'd really appreciate that. Like always, you can follow me at SBSteve50 on Twitter and Instagram. My name, is SB! And that's a wrap. Peace.